welcome back. We're going to solve question 6 and then we're going to grade it using the apply the marking scheme to see how we got on. So looks very much like algebra and functions. So we'll start off with the function question. It's an f of question because you can see it here, f of notation. So a function is defined with f of notation, so it reads f of x equals 6x take away 5, where x is a real number. Work out the value of f of 3. So substitute in 3, and we'll do the proper notation here. F of 3 equals 6 times 3, because there was an x there and now there's a 3 there, take away 5. That's 18 take away 5, which we can do all in our head, and we get 13. Okay. Work out the value of x for which f of x equals 55. So we can take our expression for f of x, 6x take 5, and set it equal to 55. So we go 6x minus 5 equals 55. Okay, this term contains the x, so we will transpose the other term because we're moving towards isolation. So 6x equals, when we transpose a minus, it turns into plus. 55 plus 5, 6x equals 60. Now we're honing in on we need x on its own, we need to get rid of the 6 factor. So notice I said we need to get rid of the 6 factor. Here we need to get rid of the minus 5 term. When you get rid of a term, you transpose straight across, change sign. But here we're getting rid of a factor, we divide down. You can put in your calculator there and say, yeah, multiply is what's happening, so the opposite to that is divide. Divide down, you get x equals 60 over 6, x equals 10. Now we're grand, we're done. Work out two values of x for which f of x equals x squared. So just like we did up here, we made the x squared expression equal to 55. Now we're going to make the x squared expression equal to x squared. So the way it's written now is, with the fx here on the left, it's 6x minus 5 equals x squared. Okay, now our strategy now is to get all the terms to one side. We're just going to go to page 20 to look at the formula. It's in under algebra. Page 18. No, I skipped page 20. Show it to you under the actual log tables, but I have to change that PDF around to bring in page 20. Well, and before I even go to page 20, let's look at the index and come down here. It's algebra page 20. Okay. Sorry about this, it's not as big as it could have been, but here's your equation. This is the important thing here. There's your quadratic, and it's in standard form here. So we want the x squared, the x, and the number term on the one side. But we don't have them all on the one side. Now you take your you make the x squared the dominant one. If it's positive, then you let all the other ones move. Okay? So it is positive. So we make all the other ones move. Let's start off with the 6x. It'll turn into minus 6x. And let's then move to the minus 5, and it'll come across and it'll become plus 5. And if we've moved everything here, there's a naught here, but because of reflection, we'll put the naught here. Okay? Now this is a very, very easy quadratic to factorize, but you could use the minus b formula and solve it. Okay? And because we have x equals r, we'll accept all solutions. In this case, they're both going to be positive. But we also can factorize it. So what we're looking for is two numbers that add to 6, because it is plus, and that multiply to 5. Okay? And of course the two numbers are 5 and 1. Okay, so we're getting x, and they're both minus, so I'm not bothering with I don't need the frame, because it was just too easy. I knew it was an x minus and an x minus, and I just had to find two numbers that multiply to 5 and add to 6. Well, that's the easiest one there is. Okay, because 5 is a prime number, is the only choice. Okay, prime numbers only have two factors themselves and 1. So it was either going to be 6 here or nothing at all. Now if there'd been a minus here, it would have been 4 here because you had 5 take away 1. But anyway, here we go. And then we go x minus 1 equals 0, because how can we get naught? It's called a zero product rule. We'll be doing it in class if we look into our scheme and see we haven't done it. We'll do it in class anyway if you need to. We'll be able to fit loads in the next bunch of weeks. Okay, so there we go. Zero product. How can two things multiply to be naught? Either that's naught or that's naught. If that's naught, I've written it here, then x is 1. And if or x minus 5 is naught, so x equals 5. So there are your two answers, 1 or 5. They're both good. Put in a box, you got it out. Okay, moving on. Multiply out this. So I have x plus 7 multiplied by x minus 2. We can split the brackets if we want to. It's a bit slow, but we can do it. We get x squared minus 2x plus 7x minus 14, and we can combine these, group these, you get x squared plus 5x minus 14. Or you can use, say, FOIL, where you multiply them together to get 7x. Now do you see the way I don't really have enough space because the writing is so small? So if I want to use FOIL, I'm going to have to make them bigger so that I have room for my visual technique. Yeah, we're visual learners, and we like to keep things nice and big and nice and looking nice. So 7 times x is 7x, and negative 2, you could put an arrow that way, and then back this way, negative 2 by x is negative 2x, and 5, and we start here now. First is x squared, now the 7x take 2x is 5x. They've been grouped and simplified, and then 7 times negative 2 is negative 14. Either way you get the same answer multiplied out. Now we go on and we have to factorize both of these. So we're kind of doing two things at one time. On the top floor, we're taking out the common. 3, the common factor, the highest common factor is 3. And what's left inside is x plus 2. And the next one we're thinking difference of two squares, but let's do one step at a time. So we'll write it like that. And then we'll just remind ourselves the way we saw it in the scheme, in the official spec, that's the letters they use. And it's x minus a. You don't have to use the ones they use, but it's nice to use the ones they use in the spec. Okay, so it's x minus a. So for us it's x minus 2 by x plus 2. So that's equal to 3 times x plus 2. Just let the top be a passenger, and let's factorize out the bottom. Okay, now we can cancel them. There is a really sophisticated thing that the marking scheme won't care if you say it or not, but it is that x can't be minus 2. Because if x was minus 2, this would be 0 over 0. That's not allowed. So this is just one number not allowed. But after that, the answer is 3 over x minus 2. Don't need bracket there, so that's 3 over x minus 2. The only number we're not allowed to be is minus 2. Okay, but again, that wouldn't come up in the junior cert, so I'll cross it out and say no more. On we go to this, solve this equation. I'm going to give you two methods. We'll use the minus b method because you know it. And then I'm going to use a thing called completing a square, and I'm going to explain this to you real careful because it's way quicker. You can put your stopwatch on it now, and we're going to do this using the minus b formula. Okay, you can use the calculator, but you know what, I think we can do it by hand as well, just writing it up. So it's very important that we know that a is 1, b is minus 6, and c is minus 10. So we write down the formula, x equals minus b plus or minus the square root. Now we'll minus the b, which is minus minus 6 is 6. We'll do plus or minus the square of a negative, doesn't matter whether it's negative or positive, 36 minus 4 times 1 times minus. So minus by plus is plus 24. Okay. Now we're not expecting this to be a square root because that doesn't factorize. Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a mess. But before I do that, all over 2. Okay, 30 and 20 is 50 and 60. 6 plus or minus the square root of 60 all over 2. Now there's a 4 in there. That'll come out. And when it comes out, it turns into 2. And there's 15 there. And the 2 still down here. So the answer is 3 plus or minus root 15. You can do both of them. I'll just look at 2 decimal place. Just before I do it, I'll show you the other one because this answer is going to come out way quicker. So you're going to complete the square. Okay. It's going to sound challenging at first, okay? But I know when I where I end up when I'm squaring this, I end up getting x squared minus 6x plus 9. Okay, I'm squaring that. So because it's x at the beginning, I get x squared. So basically all I have to do is half of that 6 and keep the sign. So I go x minus 3 squared is kind of where this came from. But we got to do whatever we do to the left, we have to do to the right. That's the only rule. So what's happened is I've got my x squared. When I multiply that out, I get minus 6x. But I've also got a 9 on the left that I shouldn't have. 3 3's. Minus by minus plus 3 3 is 9. So I'm going to square this, it's always positive, so it's 9. And the other thing I have is minus 10 used to be here, and I want it over here now. 19. Why 15 here? What did I do? Okay, it's interesting because I might have made a mistake here with my sums. B is a negative 6. C is negative 10. I multiplied 4. That should have been 40. Okay, and just now what you're learning here is I made a mistake. Sure enough, I didn't, and I could have used the calculator. Would have been way better, by the way, which I might do as well in a second. I made a mistake, but this method picked it up. So it's brilliant to do 2 things, and even if you have enough time the exam to do them both, because then you just make sure you're not making mistakes. So this is correct, and this isn't. I made a mistake in there. So I'm going to continue on here. So I have x minus 3 squared equals 19. And now I use the square root property. Look, here's your square. Beside it is square root, but the square root property, oftentimes the condition means we're only looking for positive, but when we're not, we got to accept the fact that a square root is not really a function, because a function, when you put in something, you get out one thing, but here we get out 2 things. So it's not really a function, or we call it a multi-value function. So when you do this, you get plus or minus the square root of 19. Okay, and then you bring across to minus 3, and you have your 2 exact answers, which we'll then evaluate because they wanted evaluated. So minus 3 transposes across to become 3 plus or minus root 19. Now, before we even evaluate that, let me show you what would have happened really quickly if I didn't try to be a hero with my numbers, because it didn't work for me because I mixed up my 6 and minus 10. Probably because I didn't have enough room to put that up there. But so I made that mistake, but here we go. We're going to fix it by being more careful, by the calculator do all the heavy work. So what is it again? I want 1 for A, so I do 1 stored to A, and it says it there, 1 is stored to A. Okay, I hit clear, and you have to hit clear for negative, so you might as well hit it for all of them, it's easier. Then I do minus 6 stored to B, and I hit clear, and I do minus 10 stored to C. So it's really easy. Store to A, store to B, store to C, and keep clearing. Okay, that's stored to C. Now I go fraction bar and do my formula. Literally my formula. Minus B, but I can only do a plus first and then a minus. Square root of B squared alpha B. You're hitting alpha an awful lot, obviously, squared, minus 4 alpha A alpha C. So from there to there, skip in the middle, down we go all over to alpha A. 3 plus root 19, and the other answer of course will always be the conjugate of this, which is 3 minus root 19. So I can look at that with a shift equals. Okay, it's 7.36 because we're rounding up. Or, and I can very quickly go in there, go forward, forward, forward to turn that plus into a minus. Okay, and I think I'll do shift equals, because if I don't, I'm going to see the expression that I already know anyway, and I get minus 1.36. Okay, and that's using the minus b formula as well, and so I don't have to do them all. I just put a box around that. I did it 3 different ways. Okay, interesting, I made a mistake, isn't it? That's it, lads. We'll see you in the next one. Oh no, it isn't it. I have to correct it, don't I? We have to look at the marking scheme. Okay, so here we are. We're getting f of 3 equals 13 worth 10 marks as long as we get x equals 10 in the second one. Okay, let's have a look. Accept correct answers without supporting work shown. This is the thing on accept correct answers without supporting work shown. Here you have to show supporting work. So you see how often it is without supporting work done. Okay, so you can just work it all out in your head. I'm not recommending it, I'm just saying that from those 4 parts, 3 of them didn't require any work at all, just the right answer. I'm not recommending it, I'm just saying it. So, because if a student, if it comes down to I'm correcting, I have to give full marks, and that's what I do every summer. I mark junior cert or leaving cert papers. So you have to apply the marking scheme without any judgment at all. I have to do what it says, nothing else. Everyone who marks your thing has to give you the exact same mark for everything, based on applying the marking scheme. There's only one way to apply it fairly. Okay. We get 13 yes, 10 yes. That's 10 out of 10. Down here we have a 5. Okay, so we got 1 or 5. What's a mistake? Oh yeah, I noticed that. There's a mistake in the marking scheme. So you see here, it goes x minus, can you see this? So it goes x minus 5 equals 0, and then it says x equals 2, but of course that's wrong. That should be x equals 5. Okay, and x minus 1 is 0, and that is correct. Okay, so I wonder how many students, if so I have to correct this, and this is really bad. A marking scheme should never have a mistake in it. Okay, I might let them know tomorrow that it's there, that mistake, in case teachers would just apply it blindly without doing any critical thinking. That would be terrible, wouldn't it? Okay, so it's great that we found it. So we've 10 marks and 5 marks. 10 out of 10 and 5 out of 5. And then we're over here, we're getting 10 marks for B and C. Okay, so did they get 3 over x minus 2? Yes. Did they get x squared plus 5x negative 14? Yes. Yes. 10 out of 10. And down here, did we get 7.36? Yes. Minus 1.36. Yes. I don't care how you did it. They did the minus b formula. Very slow, and that was where I should have had a 40. Okay. Great. What do they add up to? 10, 20, 25. Question 6. Double check. At the very beginning you get this page, really important. I just want to double check that 6 is worth, ooh, they said it's worth 30. Hold on. Question 6 is worth 30. So it was 10, 5, 10, 5. 10, 5, 10, and 5. There's my 30. We're on to the next question. As always, students, I'll see you in the next one.